what part of the country or world you hail from. I'm your host for the Rock and Roll Channel, Steve Harkins, and thanks for joining us. We have a myriad of viewing and entertainment options, and that's why we strive to raise the bar on our shows. Tonight's a perfect example of raising the bar. We're really excited. But first, wanted to mention we recently hosted George Thorogood, who delivered a great show, and had a fascinating evening with Edgar Winter, who's discussing this great project. It's an amazing nod to his brother, Johnny Winter, and it's entitled Brother Johnny. And we're hopeful actually to have Edgar back because he's releasing it on vinyl in a couple of months, and the feedback was overwhelming. That project's pretty much sold out, close to it. We still have a few signed CDs available from George. And then this Thursday, that's tomorrow, we've got John Waite, formerly of the Babies and Bad English, and of course of solo fame, and he's releasing his new EP, Anything. And you're going to love this. I mean, he really delivered a great project, also signed by him. And then next week, Talk Shop Live celebrates Rock and Roll Week, our first celebration of the 1-year anniversary here at Talk Shop Live. And the shows for the first week will include Ted Nugent. That will be interesting. I will be wearing my seatbelt for that. The Doobie Brothers, Sheryl Crow, Felix Cavallari of the Rascals, and Rick Springfield. So mark your calendars. Dates are on the Rock and Roll Channel page and on Talk Shop Live. So tonight I fulfill a lifelong dream. It doesn't get any better than this. Marty, are you out there?
I am here.
There you are. Welcome back to Nashville.
Thank you.
Ready for a great show?
Let's do it.
All right, so let's roll digital if we can. So we can spend the whole hour discussing our guest accomplishments. At least 21 albums released at last count, add 2 EPs, 8 times platinum, 35 million plus album sales. She's a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductee, a pioneer in a profession dominated by males, one of the great songwriters and performers, and without question, not just one of the greatest rock vocalists, but one of the greatest vocalists, period, of our time. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the one and only Ann Wilson.
Hello.
Hi, Ann. You know, this is Zoom. You can't tell it, but you're getting a virtual standing ovation as we speak. I'm sure of it.
Woo!
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Please sit down, folks. So fans that want to share a comment or pose a question to Ann, just use the chat function, and we'll get to as many as possible. So Ann, I guess first of all, I've got to ask you, it was a while ago, but you relocated from the Northwest, which predominantly was your home when you weren't, of course, on the road, and you've been living in Florida. So how has that transition been for you? Because that's an extreme change in climate and atmosphere.
That's about as radical of a geographic as you can pull, I think, in this country. And
absolutely,
from Seattle to northern Florida, you know. But it doesn't, to us, we were just looking for escape from the constant dreary drizzle of the weather of Seattle. We've had lived, both my husband and I lived most of our lives there, and we just hit the wall about it. And we just went down to Florida prior to our wedding and hung out in the Keys for a little while. And it was just so beautiful.
Yeah.
So we decided to look for some land on the water there, and we wanted acreage, you know, and waterfront and stuff. So we found it in Florida.
That's great.
Near St. Augustine.
Nice.
It's beautiful.
And now you call it home, right? It feels like home?
Yeah, we've been there since the fall of 16.
Amazing.
The fateful fall of 16.
That's right. You threw away your shovels, right? Did you have a ceremony?
Right.
I moved from Chicago down to Charlotte, not quite as far south, but I kept my shovel just to remind me what I left behind.
Yeah, you know, I miss Seattle.
Yeah.
I miss the people, especially, and the sort of the liberal politics of it, but not enough to actually go back there and re-enter that bubble, because living someplace else besides a blue bubble is mind expanding when
True.
You get to be around all kinds of people with all kinds of ideas, and it's really mind opening.
Yeah, absolutely. I can vouch for that as well in North Carolina. Very similar.
Yeah.
Yeah. So listen, congratulations on this new album. You delivered a great album. And, I can say that from the heart because I only have to listen to it once for these shows. And I'm probably on my fourth listen from start to finish.
Oh, cool.
It's a great album. So, and thank you for that. And, that's why we're here tonight. So let's jump into it. So first of all, you recorded at least part, if not all, of this album in an iconic studio, right? That have a lot of musical ghosts. So tell us about the experience and where it was.
Yeah. I had, during the pandemic, in all the peace and quiet, the endless peace and quiet we had, I had written a few songs, like 4 songs, and I just had them on little iPhone demos,
Right.
And I wanted to go and develop them somewhere. And I also had a bucket list dream of going and working at Muscle Shoals in Alabama. So I just thought, well, why not now? If not now, when? So I got vaccinated and I put on a mask and I hired a band leader in the form of Tom Bukovac from Cleveland. And we went down there and Tom put some musicians together and walked in there and we just hit it off. I mean, it was like, maybe it was the place, maybe it was the spell of Muscle Shoals.
Wouldn't be surprised.
But we just had instant common ground as musicians. And they really liked my demos and they helped me develop them. And pretty soon we had songs. We had like 4 or 5 songs. And then after that, we kept on writing and there were a bunch more. And they just come out real easily with this particular group of musicians. Huh. They're just fabulous.
It's great.
Players and people.
And you can't produce chemistry. It's either there or it isn't, right?
You can't. And that type of instantaneous feeling of unity just rarely ever happens. Usually you have to really warm up to it. And there's always some guy who has a day job or their significant other doesn't like them working without
running from the law. Who knows?
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. It's always something.
It's always something.
But we didn't have that kind of problem with Tom Bukovac and me and Tony Lucido and Sean Lane from Seattle, a drummer that I knew from Seattle, and Paul Mook. And so here we are with an album.
And now do they form part of the core of your band, your new band?
They are my new band.
That's great.
The Amazing Dogs.
Yep. How does it feel? I mean, have you done some dates yet with these guys?
Yes. Last year we did about 20.
Yeah.
And we're just about to head out and do more. So.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that in a second, but let's go right into the album. So the opening track, Greed, it's a great video as well. Blistering song, musically, vocal performance is terrific, great break and dynamics, pointed lyrics. Kenny Wayne Shepherd guests on this. And hearing your voice, Ann, I have to say, is like a warm blanket we all need, especially considering the last 2 to 4 years that we've gone through. So as a fan, I got to thank you for this track. It's worth the price of admission alone.
Oh, thank you. Actually, Kenny Wayne doesn't play on Greed. That's Tom Bukovac.
Oh, forgive me. Forgive me, Tom.
No worries, no worries. We'll get to Kenny Wayne.
Okay, good.
But no, that song Greed is just over the last 4 or 5 years, just the way things have unfolded on a national level has just got my head spinning like everyone else.
Yeah.
Because it's just we're living on this level of materialism and consumerism and conformity that is just, I've never seen it before in all my many years,
Right.
And I just wanted to comment on it. And I see it in myself sometimes, just how much online shopping do you want to do? Like how much stuff do you really need to be happy?
It's part of human nature, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. The lyrics are spot on. Yeah.
I've gone through the same way. So it's, animal nature.
That's right. Absolutely. For sure. Black Wing, love the opening keyboard line. Seems like a little bit of a nod to Zeppelin, but it's not like plagiarism. It has a little bit of a vibe to that. And beautiful melody line, killer vocals again, terrific lyric, an intriguing guitar break as well. Great production on this. Overall, the song's got a great vibe.
Thank you. Now, the that song, Blackwing, was one of the most obvious written during the pandemic songs because we couldn't go anywhere. We didn't even go to the grocery store hardly.
Right.
So
Right.
I was looking out the window. We live on the St. Johns River, and I was looking out at the big seabirds over the water and everything. And they were also free to go wherever they want, do whatever they want. And I suppose I felt a little envious, and I started talking with them.
Yeah.
And that's where Blackwing came from.
You have a history of when that happens, when you speak to nature, great songs usually materialize. I'll
Well,
talk
thank you.
about one in particular, but it's true.
Yeah, I'm very connected to nature.
Yeah.
To me, that's my spirituality, really. And the guitar on this song is really special too. It's played by a guy named Tyler Boley from Seattle, who's an old friend who's been around since the very, very beginning of Heart Days and everything. And I asked him to play because he's just a really brilliant player. Doesn't do it professionally, but
No kidding.
he brought something to the song that is really cool.
That's great. You kind of had that sense that he would add something special to it.
Yeah, and it's a whole different generation of playing, and it's just an unhurried, unpressured way of just sailing the way he plays, which I think is beautiful.
That's great. And thanks for pointing out who played guitar, because I was just going to mention Kenny Wayne Shepherd for the next 10 songs until I got it right. So thanks. That's one less song I have to be wrong on who's sitting in on it, but he does a terrific job for sure.
Yeah.
Another thing that's really striking about the new album is, and I know the cat's out of the bag, but we got to bring it up. Album covers, beautiful piece of artwork, and obviously an infamous artist. So what gave you the vision of reaching out to this artist, and how'd you connect with them?
Yeah, well, we're going to release Fierce Bliss on vinyl, and I thought, how cool would it be if people could have the experience of actually listening to a vinyl record and holding the album and just getting lost in the album art,
Right.
and all the stuff that's written on the package and everything. So I thought, well, who would be the ultimate fantasy artist to do this? And of course it was Roger Dean, whose whose fantasy art I always really admired when he worked for Yes, with Yes and Asia.
Yeah.
And so I contacted him and told him the name of the album, and he really liked it. So he sent me a bunch of ideas, and one of them was called Parrot on Ice, and that's the one that became the album art.
That's great. And it's not, again, plagiarism from the Yes albums, but it's really clearly his artwork. So he put some thought into that in terms of trying to capture your spirit.
Yeah, it's definitely his vision, and that's what I wanted, was
Right.
Roger's vision, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Just that alone. I mean, again, just, what a beautiful work of art. And then there's the music, and now there's some covers on this, and your solo work, you've picked out some really interesting covers and taken them in interesting directions. This one, I definitely did not see coming at all. If I had to guess, what covers would be on the album, I wouldn't imagine a Robin Trower song, but the guitar work's fantastic. The band smokes on this thing, and it's an amazing vocal. It's so great to hear the song again. Yet at the same token, your vocal style kind of made it your own.
Thank you. Yeah, it's just a fantastic song. It's like I feel it's one of the best blues songs ever conceived, just because it's so completely dark. It's existential dread,
That's right.
And this is a song that Kenny Wayne Shepherd does play on.
I knew that. No,
And
I didn't know
he
that.
nails it,
He does.
Yeah, he's
The riff's fantastic.
Right, yeah.
It's a bit nostalgic, but again, it has a fresh contemporary feel to it at the same token.
Yeah, when I choose a cover, that's what I really wanted choose, is a song that is universal in terms of time.
Right.
If there's an old song that I like from the 60s or something, chances are I won't bring it forward because it's not aged well.
Yeah.
Certain songs really have, and they just don't belong to any age. They're ageless. So
That's true.
Bridge of
Great
Sighs is
songs
one of,
stand the test of time.
yeah,
And too, this is one of those songs that, for whatever reason, seems to have, escaped radio airwaves in recent years, even though it was Bridge of Sighs was just, you couldn't turn on FM radio when that album came out without hearing that song and several other songs from that album for that matter.
well, it's a funny thing because you turn on the radio and most platforms that play today's music or even the music of the last 5 or 10 years, and it's all happy. It's almost like people are afraid to not listen to happy music.
Right.
And it puts music in kind of a box, of like,
Right.
well, is it bubbly?
Yeah, right.
Is it
Pleasantville.
positive?
It's Pleasantville.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Bridge of Sighs wouldn't have fit into that paradigm.
Well, again, I'm thankful that you did that cover. It's a great version for sure. Now, Kicking and Dreaming, a story of heart, soul, and rock and roll. It's hard to believe. It's a great book, but it's hard to believe it's been 10 years since that was published.
Right? Yeah.
So I have to ask you, is that on your bucket list? I mean, you've got stories to tell in the last 10 years for sure.
Yeah.
So the story is far from complete. Any chance down the road we'll either see an addendum to that or maybe even another book?
Yeah, I'd be a fool not to get another one going.
I would think.
Because really more has happened in the last 10 years than happened in the previous 40.
Mind-boggling.
In some
right?
ways.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's beautiful because I just want to keep on thriving and just keep on doing stuff and making things happen, until I can't. So.
Well, we appreciate it for sure. Next track we were going to mention, and we're kind of doing this in sequences, Fighting for Life. Moody, atmospheric. Musically, it's beautiful. Terrific lead guitar break. Mm-hmm. Where'd the inspiration from the lyric come from? And by the way, it's a terrific ending.
Thank you.
So, yeah.
Thank you. The inspiration for that came from meeting the person who I eventually married. And it was my first hit of him, like when I first observed this person, and he's just vital times, like vitality on steroids, and it's just every minute has to be full. And he always says, well, I'm just going to live until I die, so don't expect me to retire. He's just, and he's beautiful. He's tall and lanky, and he has like a ballet sort of a grace about him. And those things put together made me just go, wow, there's a song here,
How long have you guys been married now?
Well, we just celebrated our 7th anniversary.
Congratulations. That's great.
And, but we'd been together for 6 months before that. So we like to think we're working on 8.
There you go.
8. Yeah.
2 celebrations in a year.
Yeah. No, we didn't waste any time. We just kind of knew,
That's how it happens sometimes, right?
Right.
You can't manufacture that.
Nope.
So, hey, let's hear from some of the fans, and there's a lot of them here. So Amy C just says, yay, with about 14 exclamation points. Happy that you're here. And this also, she says, longtime huge heartmonger fan since the cradle. You were such an inspiration to many. Thank you for keeping the love alive. Massachusetts loves you.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
Richard says, hey, Ann, you're the best. And Zoe says, hi, Steve. Hi, Ann. Oh, my God, you look so good, and it's great to see you on Talk Shop Live. So crazy on you. Did not see that one coming. Was also just rocking the Led Zeppelin's Black Dog, your rendition the other day, which is a great version.
Thank you.
Jacqueline says, it is a great song.
Great song.
And Jacqueline says, hey, Ann, great to see you as well. Bought your LP. Can't wait to listen. And that's coming out this Friday, folks.
That's right. Day after tomorrow.
That's right. And you want to get your copy now, you can. Rick says, hey, Ann, of all of your albums, if you can get to do a do-over with the cover, which album would it be and why? Have you ever even thought about that?
The album cover?
Yeah.
Yeah, I probably would do over the Passionworks cover, the one with us in the steam room.
Right.
It looked nice on paper, but
yeah.
but I think we could have done a much more cool cover than that.
That was through the CBS side, was it?
I think we were
Yeah.
still on Epic then, yeah.
Yeah, right.
And then that was right before we signed to Capitol.
Well, it's not too late for us to sign a petition for them to do a redo on that.
Right.
You know, there's crazier petitions floating around out there.
Yeah,
I'm
I just
thinking.
remember that being in that steam room,
Yeah.
it took a while to get that picture. It was just way too hot. It was just way too
Do
hot.
you think that was intentional, or was it just the budget was pretty low?
It was intentional. The idea was to get us looking all hot and sweaty and sexy, you know. I don't think we achieved that. I just think we looked miserable.
Yeah, I remember. I think I did try to wipe down the album once, wondering if it was sweating or something. I'm not sure. But still, it's a good album.
Thank you.
And listen, folks, tonight we are gathered here today because we're most fortunate to have one of the greatest performers, songwriters, and vocalists of our time, that, of course, being Ann Wilson. And she's recorded this brilliant new solo album entitled Fierce Bliss. Heart fans and fans of Ann's solo work will love this new album. There's 11 great new tracks. I think 3 of them are covers. The rest are all original. From start to finish, you're absolutely guaranteed to go back for repeat listens. As I said, I'm back on my 4th listen plus. Add the iconic artwork that you see right here, and you need to own this album. What a better way to show Ann how much you appreciate her and her continuing work. Available on vinyl and CD, as we said, this Friday, April 29th. But you can purchase it here now. Just hit the buy button below, and the rest is quick and easy. And thanks for your continuing support of Ann and the arts.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is my pleasure. So, love of my life. First of all, you know, I always thought like Freddie Mercury owns that song. Of course, he wrote it and he did it so beautifully, but I never envisioned a cover, and yet you've done an amazing treatment of it. Now, I wasn't going to say Kenny Wayne Shepherd duetted with you. I was going to say Vince Gill actually did, who's got a beautiful voice.
Yes.
And you also seem to have a knack of getting hooked up with, you know, on these duets where some magic happens, and this is another example of it. Who made the decision to cover the song?
Oh, I did.
Did you?
Yeah. And first, let me say that Freddie Mercury does own this song. I mean, the Queen version is completely different soul-wise than my version, but I wanted to take it out of the Baroque sort of chamber music, campy way they did it, and just lay it out sort of more organically. And I wanted to duet with an angel, basically, so it had to be Vince.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful, for sure. And again, is a testament to how great of a song it is, because again, you didn't mimic the original.
Right. Yeah. No, a good song just stands on its own, you know.
It really does.
Yeah. But
So
that one is so tender and so delicate that you just want to treat it like a precious thing, you know.
Yeah. Did you stress over it at all initially as far as how you'd approach it, or did it come naturally?
Well, it came pretty naturally, and of course Tom Bukovac helped me with the arrangement.
Yeah.
We decided just to go as simple as possible. Just no frills.
Yep.
Just lay it out.
Well, it's terrific. It's a great ad. So can we talk about the Kennedy Center honors in Led Zeppelin? Because they're on my list, and I think many others, they're these all-time great musical moments on television. And, you know, there's, of course, the Beatles on Ed Sullivan, Michael Jackson with the Motown anniversary and the Moonwalk. There's Live Aid, Nirvana at the VMAs was kind of an interesting moment. There's even the Who on the Smothers Brothers, where, you know, Keith Moon got a hold of some, you know, fireworks, and the rest is history. And in my mind, without question, your performance deserves a place right up there too. I mean, every time I see it, and I know everyone I talk to says the same thing, it sends absolute chills up my spine. But when when they kept cutting away to the 3 gentlemen, you see their interaction. I mean, Robert Plant was nearly driven to tears. Jimmy Page couldn't stop beaming, and John Paul Jones, you know, was just beside himself. And so through all of that, the thing I have to ask you is, how horrifying was it before you sang that first note, knowing what you were doing, what you were the group you were standing in front of, and paying homage to this, you know, amazing group?
Yeah, well, it could have been horrifying, but I don't see things that way. To me, it was an honor. And
Yeah.
The mission that I had and that Nancy had and that everyone on that stage had was to please Led Zeppelin,
Yeah.
the surviving members of Led Zeppelin. And I think that is what we did. I think how I was able to compartmentalize any kind of fear I had was just by using basic entry level meditation techniques.
There you go.
Just where you just be in the moment and focus on something right in front of you and be in it, and don't pay any attention. Don't think about anything else. Clear your mind. Just be in the song, and that's what I did.
It certainly didn't show it, so I wasn't trying to apply that. In fact, the person that should have been probably sweating bullets would have been Nancy, because she had to start the song, right?
No kidding. And I think she did have some nerves, because that's a real high visibility, very important moment, and she couldn't blow it.
Yeah.
She didn't. She really brought it.
Yeah, well, it was amazing. And also taking to another level, the combination of the choir, which was so just powerful, along with, the string arrangement, and also Jason Bonham.
Yeah. Jason, great drummer.
Yeah, just really magical. So
Bill Block.
That absolutely right. Yeah, the DNA definitely passed through in that particular case. So Missionary Man is another interesting cover song choice. And at first I wondered, do we need another cover of Missionary Man, as great of a song as it is? Because it seems like it's kind of, caught in a particular era. And I'm not saying the song hasn't aged well, but I've never heard a cover of it. But again, based on the treatment, absolutely, this version rocks out. So again, you weren't trying to mimic the original version; you made it your own, and then you have an interesting add to it, the Reverend Nathan Young singers. Where'd you find them? I mean, overall, it was a great version. Again, another really great surprise.
Well, we found them in one of the Baptist churches in Nashville, and we recorded that track in Nashville. And
Okay.
My idea was of course, Kenny Wayne Shepherd plays guitar on this.
I knew that.
My idea was to just make the biggest mega church, biggest overblown production we possibly could. And it was an honor. It was an honor for me to get to sing with that gospel choir, because every person in there probably is as good of a singer as me, or better, so for me to get to raise my voice with them was just really, really exciting.
Absolutely. And I mentioned or implied that, you seem to be one with nature when it comes to writing great songs when you interact with nature or observe them. And I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up Dog and Butterfly. And I know you've covered this in other interviews, but sometimes it's just these once in a lifetime songs that happen. I mean, and across the board, this is like the perfect song, lyrically, the melody line, the chord progression hits certain nerves and connects with anyone who's got a pulse and a soul. If you don't respond to this song, I mean, you're not going to respond to anything musically. And so I know artists would kill just to write that one song and call it a day. And I profess, I've seen this live so many times, and you doing it, that, fight back the tears, because it just pulls out those emotions. It's such a beautiful song. The lyric is amazing. So I just, have to ask you, I mean, you've covered that so many times, but surely you have to recognize what a special song that is in your portfolio.
Oh yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, that song was definitely just a metaphor that just presented itself to me in nature.
Yep.
That's the cool stuff to me, is when it doesn't come out of the cognition, but it just shows itself, and it's a felt thing.
And do you feel like that at times? So you're kind of like, I hear this from a lot of songwriters, that sometimes some of the greatest works are like, they're like a vessel or portal where magic happens. It just kind of pops into your head or your soul and comes out.
That's right. And I don't want to overgeneralize, but I would say that some of the finest songs of all time that have stood the test of time, I'm sure, come from that well.
Yep.
A lot of the songs that are crafted to sound like what's going on at the time don't last, because they're just that, they're constructs.
That's right. Yeah, I completely agree with you. Well, one that certainly isn't that is Gladiator. In fact, I think this is an instant classic song. I love this one. Now, this was written, I know for sure, by Warren Haynes. So please don't tell me it was Kenny Wayne Shepherd, because I'll have to
No,
kill
no, no.
myself. Thank goodness. But,
It was definitely Warren.
he's of course, yeah, he's of course also featured on the guitar. It's a really nice pairing, but also a bit of a nice surprise. Government Mule backs you on this track, and one other that we'll talk about. And you also go back a ways with Warren, don't you?
Yeah, in 2017,
Yep.
Warren invited me to sit in with Government Mule at Lockenfest in Virginia, and I did, and we hit it off. And then I went and sat in with him a few more times, and excuse me, Warren played on my second solo album on a couple of songs. So for this, he had an idea that he wanted to write this epic rock song that was long and went through all these different changes, kind of like the Zeppelin Rain song or something.
Right.
And so he sent me his little, iPhone with him playing the guitar demo, and I came up with the lyrics and the story, and that was Gladiator. And then he sent the blues track for Angels Blues, and I thought, how cool would it be to get inside the soul of an angel who's leaving life, who's halfway out of life now, but sort of lingering on a cloud, looking down at the earth and all the passion and the joy and the love and all that, and going, well, bye. And the angel has the blues because he's leaving those things of earth and humanity.
Yeah, and you really stretch your vocal skills too. I mean, it seems natural, but that seems more like a song you would cover with Government Mule. Mm-hmm. Whereas Gladiator, as you said, when Warren was trying to push the envelope a bit, definitely it isn't a given that that's who's backing you up. They sound fantastic in the song.
Well, that band is so elastic. I mean, you can't really pigeonhole them.
Yeah.
Because they can stand up there on stage at a festival and jam for like 25 minutes on one song.
Right.
And just, it's never gets old, they speak this common language together. So when they went to do Gladiator, they had this idea in mind, and they got behind the story of it, and they played the little kind of Renaissance sounds in there and everything, and along with Warren's guitar, just really worked.
Yeah, it really did. This one's going to stick. This one's going to last for some time. It's really an instant classic for sure.
Yeah.
Here's another great surprise with covers. Forget Her. Could easily go through the classic rock arsenal. I mean, as you kind of implied earlier, but it seems like you really dig deep for these gems. And this is a great cover of the Jeff Buckley song. And how did you decide to do this particular song?
Well, Jeff Buckley is one of the greatest singers of all time, in my opinion. And I was listening to the Grace album, and every time that song comes on, it would just bother me. It would just reach in and just stir something inside me.
Right.
And I developed this longing to sing it, so I did. And I changed the person in it so that, because Jeff sings it in the first person, but I sang it as an observer, and I think it makes it even more painful.
Yeah, it's emotional.
Such a beautiful, heart-wrenching song of broken heart,
Absolutely, it's a great addition too.
Yeah,
it really is. All right, so we're going to try to pull up some more questions and comments from the fans. Amy says, Ann is the only other person who can take on Stairway, period. Amen to that. I'll bet Robert Plant would probably concur with that as well. Kara G says, I watched a vocal coach on YouTube review your Stairway to Heaven performance the other day. She was giddy with delight talking about how vocally perfect it was.
Wow. Well, that's really flattering. I mean, great.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think a vocal coach would probably be listening to things like word pronunciation and things like that.
Yeah.
To
well,
technical.
Well, there you have it. There's something new to add to your portfolio for sure.
Great, yeah.
Uh,
Cool. Thank you for telling me.
Absolutely. This says Amy says absolutely. Dog and Butterfly actually makes me cry. It's a song that hits hard for me. So, this one, she loves the emotion that you brought or brings to Love of My Life, which we talked about. Richard says Greed is a great traditional rock song, a lost sound anymore. Thank you, Richard. And Mike says, hello, Steve. Hello, beautiful Ann. Fan from the start. Still rocking it, girl. Wish you'd have autographed for us here at this wonderful place at Talk Shop Live. Well, Ann's busy preparing for her tour, and we're blessed and fortunate to have her on the show. So it's all good. Ann Jeff wants to know, has Annie Lennox or Jeff Stewart heard your version of Missionary Man? That's a good question.
That's a good question, and I don't know the answer. If they haven't, I'll make sure they do, because I'd be interested to hear what they think.
I'll make. You know what? We know somebody who knows someone who actually knows Dave Stewart. We just did a show with Daryl Hall, who's very close with Dave Stewart. And did some work on his retrospective. We'll see if we can get a response, and we'll get you the feedback if we can hear back from him.
Thank you.
For sure.
Yeah, I'd be interested to know.
Yeah, absolutely. This Richard, I noticed that all of your recent performances on YouTube have been indoor ballroom venues. Will there be any outdoor performances? Looks like you might be performing in Georgia. I think you've got some outdoor shows coming up on the next couple of months of dates, it looks like.
Yes. Yeah.
Yep.
I think we're doing a couple of the bigger state fairs like Indiana, and we're playing a couple of festivals later on in the year. And but true, most of them have been indoors, just because the size of show that we're carrying it's not the great big overblown huge rock thing, it's a sort of a simplified minimalistic pared down me and the Amazing Dogs, just 5 people, and it's a small band, but it does a lot. It really does a lot. Absolutely. So the smaller venues are appropriate for us. And, frankly, I like playing the theaters, like big theaters and stuff, because you can connect with people easier. Yeah. And, there's also, there seem to be unique vibes to, especially some of the older venues, right? You can feel a ghost in the room. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, Lori M said, I just bought a CD, which is my cue, and to sit back and take a deep breath while I let everyone know that tonight we're most fortunate to have on one of the greatest performers, songwriters, and vocalists of our time, Ann Wilson. She's recorded a brilliant new solo album entitled Fierce Bliss. Art fans and fans of Ann's solo work will love this new album. 11 great tracks, 8 originals, and 3 amazing interpretations of great cover songs. From start to finish, you're guaranteed to go back for repeat listens. And again, you've seen the artwork. It's amazing artwork by Roger Dean. You need to own this album, and what a better way to show Ann how much you appreciate her and her continuing work. If you want to see that follow-up album, which we have on good authority is in the can, we have to support this project. So while it's available this Friday, April 29th, you can purchase it now. Just hit the buy button. The rest is quick and easy. And thanks again for your continuing support of Ann and the arts. So A Moment in Heaven. I'll tell you what, I think we actually may have a video clip if you'd indulge us for a second. Let's play a little bit of that. So this song is like filled with so many surprises. It's one of my favorites, if not my favorite, I have to tell you. And I feel like this easily could be the soundtrack of your career experiences as well. Is that fair to say? Oh, sure. Yeah. Mine, and like most other musicians that I know who've succeeded, Absolutely. There's an interesting little story about this song too, and that's that there's a part in the middle section that says, wow, that's some transcendental shit.
Yeah.
And in England, they don't want to say that word on the radio. So they said, they gave us options, and they said, well, we could just leave it silent, or you can say that word backwards. So I said, okay, just say Tish. That's some Transcendental Tish. And
do they have to like change
that
the
was-
liner notes with the lyrics and everything as a result? Who knows?
I don't know, but I just thought that was funny. I mean, that's so like in 2022,
Yeah, I mean,
you
come
know,
on.
like you can't say that word, like it doesn't exist, you know?
Exactly. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So is that actually on the, so are the recordings, the commercial recordings actually changed? Is that what you're, or is it just
Just in England for radio.
for radio? Got it. I was going to say people probably want to buy up all the copies they can if it was on the album or the CD. But that's
an
crossing the
American
line.
import. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think so. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So how, reading your book, I know, again, you were just a pioneer. You went through so many things, so many challenges. But especially in the 80s, how challenging was it for you in the music business? I mean, that's when it became a really, really big business, and the advent of MTV, and all the experts, the A&R people who say, I know what a hit is more so than you as an artist.
Yeah.
And in some cases, they may have a good ear. In many cases, they're way off base. But that had to be, I mean, the ups and downs had to be enormous and just so challenging. It's just not a normal lifestyle.
Right. And in the 80s, it became all about artifice.
Yeah.
And that's what was hip, is how artificial can you be?
Yeah.
And that didn't sit well with myself or with Nancy. I mean, we were able to be actresses and pull it off, but it didn't feed our souls in any way. And
Right.
the songs we were writing ourselves were deemed unusable in that particular zeitgeist. It was just, well, they're too personal, or they're not happy enough, or they don't use enough synthesizers, or whatever it was,
Right.
So we ended up doing a lot of songs from outside writers, and some of them were really good, like These Dreams and Alone and What About Love, and there's some good ones.
They've stuck and stand the test of time for sure, some of those.
But there are also a lot of them that just kind of got thrown our way, that were popular in the moment, but then just kind of died,
Right.
So it wasn't a time that was really particularly creative for us.
Yeah, for sure. Let's go back to the album, Angels Blues. You touched on that. Was that recorded kind of in a live setting? I mean, I'm assuming it didn't feel like there's a lot of overdubs on that particular track.
No, that was recorded at Power Station up in Connecticut with Government Mule, and they were set up. They were doing two albums at once. They had one room for the rock and one room for the blues. So we went into the blues room, and they already knew the whole Angels Blues track.
Right.
I just basically just sang what I'd written to it.
And you ran away with it too, right? Because it was originally intended for their album. Sounds like.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And they are just the best people. I mean, they're just great humans. And
Yeah.
Of course, Warren he's just the best,
Yeah. What you see is what you get with him, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, are there any tracks you did with them that are going to land on their album in addition to the two on this album?
Warren and I haven't even talked about that yet.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that's a great band. And it was a thrill to get to be the voice of Government Mule for a couple of songs,
Absolutely. It's a
Yeah.
great fit too. Sounds so natural.
Mhm.
So, of course, here's the obligatory topic that you've already addressed in the last month ad nauseum. So forgive me, Ann, for I'm about to sin. But the 50th anniversary of Heart's coming up, and I know even this year, big money was thrown around for you two to get together and tour. And you've taken different paths career-wise for this year. but certainly for the 50th, something has to come about. And it kind of feels like, from everything I read, hear, and say, or I've heard from both of you, that a lot of it just comes down to musical direction, as far as your choice of musicians and what path you take as far as a band. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
And that's an open book matter. I mean, there's not a feud going on or anything like that. It's just a matter of creativity and who do we want to work with.
So,
and she's been, for the last 2.5 years, I guess, been doing her solo thing, and so have I.
right.
So we both have all this new information,
Yep.
and but we have to back up a little bit and think about how the pandemic affected everything.
Right.
Heart did a major tour in 2019, and then we were all scheduled to go out again in 2020, but the pandemic happened, so everything shut down.
Right.
And at that point, I started writing. She started writing, just for our own fun,
Right.
And both those writing things grew into solo careers.
Yep.
And so we had to go ahead and finish our solo journeys individually before we can go back to that.
It makes perfect sense. So I'm here to arbitrate. So my suggestion is, first of all, the concert promoters have got to double down and offer you twice the money. You get 2 buses, and maybe her version of Heart plays the classic songs, and maybe your version plays the newer material, and then you all get together on the stage. You need a bigger setting, probably, and call it a 50th anniversary celebration.
Well, that's an interesting idea. I never thought of doing it that way.
Overhead's a little high, I know, but
yeah.
Yeah.
Two full sets of people. I don't know.
You can get back to me on that, Ann. You don't have to answer that right now.
Yeah. It's pretty early days we'll do something, but I'm not sure exactly yet what form it's going to take.
Yeah, that's perfectly fair. So, so As the World Turns, this is an absolutely gorgeous ballad. Again, you delivered another instant classic. Such a great song. And okay, this may actually be my favorite from the album. It's a phenomenal song, great production, performance, perfect closer for the album. And lyrics are powerful. It feels like this is kind of tied to our environment that we've lived in over the last X years. Was that the inspiration of the song lyrically?
Yes, that, and just, I was thinking of what it feels like whenever we get into some kind of a disagreement or a scrape or some kind of pressure situation
Right.
in our lives, and it just seems like it's suffocating and the whole world is ending, and it's never going to be good again. But then if you pull focus and come out into space and look at the big picture of what's going on, the world just keeps on turning and everything rights itself.
That's right.
That's one thing I've learned from being alive for so long, is that the world is not ending. It just
That's right.
isn't, and
Right.
it's changing, but it's not ending. So that's what I was getting into with that song.
Yeah, and again, I say, your gifts that you bring us, both in terms of as a performer, songwriter, and a vocalist, that seems to be like one of the only common bonds right now. Whether it's political, convictions, religious beliefs, or whatever, I can guarantee you at an Ann Wilson show or a Heart show that there's a combination of people who maybe today sitting across a kitchen table might want to choke each other, unfortunately. Right. But for somehow in that type of a setting, it brings all of us together, and we put aside all those differences. And boy, we need more of that now more than ever, it seems.
Yeah, we do. And that's one of the biggest things I've learned in the last several years living in Florida, when I came from a super liberal left coast Seattle area and then moved
Right.
down to Florida that's red, and I just learned that it's possible to relate to people outside of politics.
Yeah.
And you can, there are really good people who feel completely different from you, and just have to be able to look in their eyes and meet on a human level.
That's right. And agree that we can coexist together even if we don't agree, right?
Yeah.
I think it's probably the first thing we need to agree on.
Yeah, and that's the true definition of democracy, is that
That's right.
it's collaboration, you know.
Yeah, feels like we've forgotten that to some degree. We need to be
for
reminded
sure.
of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Rob says love both of your solo projects. Actually, you've got a few EPs as well, right? This is your third solo album, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Yeah.
Plus a few EPs. So, you know, he begins asking when you and Nancy have some time to sit down together. I'm sure we'll come to an amazing agreement. So, but Emily, everyone's agreeing with me, and I'm not trying to put undue pressure on you as far as how to resolve the difference in musical direction. But again, I urge you not to respond, just digest it, and you can come back to us later on that.
Okay.
All right. Hey, so this is Lori saying, please come back to Northeast Ohio. And then Murray's also saying, yes, good people treat each other with respect and agreement to your comments. So I can't believe we're almost at the top of the hour. This has flown by, but I just want to remind everybody that, again, we're so fortunate to have Ann Wilson, one of the all-time great performers, songwriters, and vocalists, not only of our generation, but of all time. I know people pigeonhole her saying one of the great rock vocalists. But again, I mean, you listen to her treatment of ballads as well, and without a doubt, she's one of the great gifts that we have. So you need to really embrace her, and the way you can show her how much you love her is by hitting that buy button right now. I feel like we need a tote board or something too, but that would be a little embarrassing. But look at that artwork. Just the artwork alone is worth the price of admission. Yeah, there you go. And at the end of the day, we've got vinyl and the CD available. It officially releases this Friday, April 29th, but you can purchase it now. And again, extremely easy. And thanks again for your continuing support of Ann and also of the arts. So as we've touched on, Ann's hitting the road with some dates starting May through the end of June. And she mentioned before the show, there will be several dates even beyond that. But I'm going to rattle off some of those that I'm aware of. She'll be appearing in San Francisco, Napa, Apollo Casino, which I had to MapQuest is north of San Diego, Los Angeles, Los Cabos, Mexico, Toronto, Quebec City, Tulsa, Peachtree City, Georgia, which is just southwest of Atlanta. It's in the Atlanta area. Nashville, where she's currently, at, and Tampa and Fort Lauderdale, which Florida, of course, as you now calls home. And then there's also dates in Joliet, Illinois. I might have spent some time in that state penitentiary. It's a nice place to visit. I kid.
Yeah.
I did not.
Okay.
I did not.
You don't fit the profile.
Thank you. I don't. That's what my lawyer said too. And Summerfest, which is actually a great event. I'm originally from Chicago, and that's a great event in Wisconsin. That's a perfect venue to see Ann and the band. And then there's other dates that will be announced, as well as her going overseas, safety and everything permitting. So Ann, with that, bear with me a second. I've got one more question from you, but I just wanted to thank all the fans for joining us tonight. Again, we know you have all kinds of options, and it was a real treat, to be able to host this legendary performer, singer, and songwriter. But we also want to say special thanks to Amanda Kagan at ABC Public Relations. She was terrific. To Dave Fry, Jennifer O'Sullivan, and Emma Jane, I think I have that right, Salcedo at Red Light Management, and to the label Silver Lining and Serena Furlan. Shout out to Joe CM from Talk Shop Live for helping to connect me and Ann. Thank you, Joe. Really appreciate that. The Talk Shop Live team of Brian, Tina, and of course, Marty Filagamo behind the scenes tonight. Sue Vega, Brad Edwards, Jimmy Cliggett, Jessica Hall, Jim Ogletree, Boris Stoev, and our Memphis warehouse team at Ingram Music. And then this Thursday, tomorrow, we've got John Waite, formerly of the Babies, Bad English, and Solo fame, releasing his new EP next week. Talk Shop Live celebrates Rock and Roll Week, our first celebrating the 1-year anniversary of being on Talk Shop Live. And that includes Ted Nugent, the Doobie Brothers, Sheryl Crow, Felix Cavallari of the Rascals, and Rick Springfield. So mark your calendars. Dates are on the Rock and Roll Channel page on Talk Shop Live. So, Ann, want to leave the last words with you. Anything you want to leave with your fans this evening?
Well, I just want to let everybody know that I love you all, and I'm grateful for the support and the loyalty over all these decades and everything. It's just means so much. And one last thing I wanted to say to you, and that's good luck with the Nuge.
Oh, thank you. I have my seatbelt ready.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, and helmet.
Yes.
It should be interesting.
Right. Kill him and grill him.
Yeah, absolutely right. Yep. It's we walk the line from time to time, so he'll be fine, I'm sure. He's at a distance. Who can get hurt?
Well, just don't talk about politics is all.
Yeah, that's good advice. Duly noted.
Pick your battles.
That's exactly right. So fans, before we close it out, pick up a copy, just hit the buy button. Again, Fierce Bliss comes out this Friday. You can get it now. It's available on vinyl and CD. That's a rarity because most new releases do not have the vinyl configuration available on day and date. So that's a pretty big deal. So pick that up, and thanks for being here. And with that, everyone, stay safe, rock on, and so long, everybody. Thanks again, Ann.
Thank you.